Welcome into the In the Money podcast for KeenelandSelect.com. Tom Leach, along with Jim Goodman, Keeneland's director of simulcasting, as we take a look at 4 stakes races on the final Saturday of the Saratoga meet, and then a Grade 1 out at Del Mar. So, Jim, let's jump right in with the 8th race at Saratoga. It's the Grade 3 Saranac for 3-year-olds going on the turf at a distance of 1 mile and an eighth. And a lot of Chad Brown in here. Where did you land?
Yeah, there's a lot of Chad Brown. It's when you look at the 3 out of the first 4 horses of Chad Brown's, you just can't pick between them. But I did manage to pick the favorite. Takeover Target here, I think, is a solid choice. He ran against Force the Pass back in the Belmont Derby, then came back and won the Hall of Fame here over a lot and Courtier, and ran second to the Visadero back in May at Belmont. So I think just the fact that Takeover Target, his experience the last 3 or 4 races, he's beaten some really good horses and just barely gotten beaten by some great horses. I think he's getting better all the time. The 8 to 5 morning line is no bargain, so sometimes when Chad Brown has multiples in there, you might want to look at the others. The money multiplier, the 1, and I think he's got a real shot with that one, but I don't think that he has as much a shot as Takeover Target. And Winter Springs would probably be my second choice, the 4 horse, simply because he's only had 1 race in North America, and he ran okay, got beat by Takeover Target, but probably got some upside, shipping over from France, getting acclimated to North America. So I would give Winter Springs a shot. The only other horse in here I think can win is Go Around. Bill Mott is getting a little cold. He started out hot as a firecracker. He's down to 15% at Saratoga, but this horse ran really well last time out and won by 3 3/4. So Go Around, the 5 has a shot. I go with Chad Brown though with Takeover Target 3.
I'm going to take a little shot here for some value with Sky Hero. Cassie's barn's been cold, but this horse's first race on the turf was his best figure, and a second off the layoffs, a 27% angle for Cassie. The inside's been far and away the best part of the turf course, so he gets inside. Now, it did rain on Thursday, so watch to see how that changes. But I'm going to try Sky Hero and then use him with all Chad Browns. The 1, 3, 4 money multiplier, Takeover Target, Winter Springs. Probably one of those 3 wins, but I'm going to try to get Sky Hero in there. Even if you're in second, I think could be a nice exacta if you could get him first or second. 9th race is the Grade 1 Spinaway for 2-year-old fillies, and you've got some fillies in here that have looked really good in their debut efforts, including Rachel Alexandra's daughter, Rachel's Valentina, Constellation for Asmussen, a real high-priced filly. So I'm going to try Tap To It, who I thought was equally, if not more impressive, and has a bullet work since then, but because she's not Rachel Alexandra's daughter or a high-priced purchase, you might get a little value, and I'm going to try Tap To It in here, use her with the 2 I mentioned, plus Tanasa as well, but Tap To It's going to be my win pick. How about you?
Yeah, I'm surprised this race came up with only 6 fillies in here. I know that a couple of them look really good, and Constellation looks like the real deal for Asmussen, and obviously a lot of people are going to be betting on Rachel's Valentina just because of her upbringing, and she looked great as well, but it took her. She ran a little harder than a couple of the other horses, so I'm going to try to play against her. I think Tap To It has a shot, but the one I like is Tanasa, I guess, with Todd Fletcher, because her race was so much easier, her maiden special weight, that she comes back in Adirondack, and she got the lead and then gave it up in the stretch, but she increased her buyer by 14 points. She ran an 80 that day. She runs back to that. These other fillies have to step up a little bit. So I think you might get a little price with her, with Constellation, and with the Rachel's Valentina getting a lot of play. And the other horse that intrigues me a little bit, if you remember Banry, when she ran at Keeneland, she ran lights out. She ran a 52 4.5 furlongs here, and it was what I think was the fastest 4.5 furlong of the spring meet. Now she comes back at Belmont and Saratoga, hadn't run as well, but Wesley gets them ready, and he may be due for a win here. So Banry is worth a look at a price, too. She just hasn't panned out as well as she looked at Keeneland. But I think this is a wide-open race. I think wherever you can get value, you take it and don't take a short price.
10th race, the Grade 1 Woodward, and it's 1 mile and an eighth for 3-year-olds and up. Liam's Map, who was so impressive and just barely missing the Whitney, probably going to be the favorite here. Where'd you land?
Well, I started with Williams Map, but then I looked at the shape of the race, and I really do not like the shape of the race when it comes to him having a shot to hang on. Honor Code just barely nipped him coming from 20 lengths out of it. So, and he got a 113 buyer, so he deserves to be the favorite. But I think he's going to get some pressure up front from Bay of Plenty, for McLaughlin, from Coach Ing, the 6, and for Protonico, the 8. And they're all classy horses that have a lot of speed. So I think it sets up for a closer in here, and I think FNX fits that profile perfectly. The 7 horse had a little blip, a couple back in the Brooklyn, just went wide both turns. They didn't persevere with him. He comes back in the Suburban, wins by a head over Tonalist and Coaching, and that was a great effort that day. If he takes a step forward, I think he's got a shot to set off the speed and just run him down the stretch. So I think that Liam's Map is the most impressive horse in here. Probably it's going to win a lot of big races. I don't think it's going to be the Woodward. I don't think he's going to get an easy lead, and I think they're going to pressure him up front, and it's going to set up for a closer, and I'm going to take FNX.
I'm going to take Liam's Map. The 113 buyer was very impressive, and my initial thought was maybe he'll regress off that, but then he's a 4-year-old, so I think he can, can handle that. I don't know that he necessarily has to regress. I like the workout, a couple of workouts he's had, and I think maybe he could be the speed of the speed in here and take him wire to wire. So I'm going to try Liam's Map, use him with Protonico, with Wicked Strong, and with My Loot, who is one of the pletchers in here that could get a little overlooked in this spot. So Liam's Map's the play, but certainly not a single for me, but that is going to be my pick. We'll also take a look at the Grade 3 Glen Falls. It's the 11th race for fillies and mares 3 and up on the turf at 1 mile 3/8. I had a tough time deciding here. I ended up going to Maximova on the rail. I like the inside draw. I like this horse has run well at Saratoga, and I think you'll get value because of the Chad Brown presence in here. Certainly got to use Goldie Esponi and Regardez, who's a lesser regarded Chad Brown trainee. Eastern Bell I would use. And then Boko Eva, who I've picked before. And the way they bet this horse, they clearly must think she's got some ability, and she hadn't shown it. She's had a layoff, so maybe off the layoff they get her right. So what I'm going to do is bet Maximova and Bokuva, however you pronounce that, both to win, and then key those two in Exactas over. So it'd be 1-5 over 1-5-3-6-9 for me in the Exacta, and just play them both to win because I think you may get a little price on Bokaiva, and if she's right, I'd hate to miss her. How about you?
We're scarily apart today because I think Goldie Esponi's a single here. I think it sets up well. I think she is the lone speed here, and she was so impressive the last 2, one at Belmont and one at Saratoga. At 1.5 miles, she shortens up a little bit to 1 mile 3/8, and I just think she carries her speed all the way. I think she's a great bet at 2-1 here for Chad Brown. I think the horses that you mentioned have a shot along with CS Teach, if that's the way you pronounce the Irish horse. We went through that. There's probably 3 or 4 ways you can pronounce it.
Yeah.
Tom Proctor's horse, the 4. And I like the back class there, and I think she's getting better at the right time and has a shot to get the money. Your other horses that you mentioned, along with Eastern Bell, the 3 has a shot, and Maximova at 15-1. If you get 15-1 on her, you'd be crazy not to take it. But Goldie Esponi is my single here. If I'm going to hit a late pick 3 and spread in the Woodward and the Spinaway, so I'm going to take my chances with Mr. Brown. Not a bad bet at Saratoga.
No, it's not. He's in the battle for that trainer's race with Pletcher, and that probably goes right down to Labor Day. And speaking of Labor Day, by the way, we should remind folks, we're going to do a second podcast on this holiday weekend for some big stakes races on Labor Day, so make sure you watch for that here at KeenelandSelect.com on Monday. Right now, one more race to look at. It's a Grade 1 out of Del Mar. Their 9th race is the Del Mar Debutante. So usually a race that produces some really good horses, and I think that's probably going to happen again. There's some really promising 2-year-old fillies in here, a nice big field. Where did you land?
It's really great to look at these 2-year-old races, and you know that these fillies are going to improve, and you look at them and you think, who's going to be the star? And it's very difficult to figure out on 1 or 2 races. There's a lot of fillies in here that have a shot. I really like Hollendorfer's horse, Surfside Tiara. The last race, she won so easily. She won by 5 1/4, and only got an 81 buyer, but I don't think Bearano really pushed her. She won that race. It was a maiden special weight breaker. She's 1-1 at Del Mar. Might get a little bit of a price on her simply because Hollendorfer has some other fillies in here, and maybe the money's going to be spread a little bit. And everybody's going to play Pretty and Cool for Baffert, who had a 95 buyer her first time out and came back and won the Sorrento very easily, and she might be the real deal, just like all of Baffert's 2-year-olds seem to be. Come to Mischief for Peter Walder was impressive her first time out. I think you got a spread here. If I were playing a trifecta, I'd also use Hollendorfer's outside horse Songbird. I don't like the 11 hole in a 7 furlong race at Del Mar, but you've got to use her off that 84 buyer. So you've got some great fillies that showed up the very first time, and they're stepping up to a grade 1. If you put a gun to my head and said bet one, I would probably bet Surfside Tiara simply because she's going to be a better price and Pretty and Cool. But I would use both those fillies on top. So 3-5 with maybe 3-5-11 with all, and hope to catch a price in the third spot. But I wouldn't be surprised if some of the other fillies stepped up as well.
Jim, I'm going to go to Pretty and Cool for Bob Baffert. This one's been really highly touted, and 3 really strong workouts since that last win. And I just think she may be the best one for Baffert right now. And he's very, very good in these 2-year-old stakes out at Del Mar when he brings his best stuff. So I'm going to take Pretty and Cool. Hope maybe I'll get a little bit of a better price than I would have off that 95, given that she regressed in the buyer fig. So maybe it won't be pounded quite as heavily as she would have off that first one. So I'm going to try her over Songbird, Gomo the 9, and Come to Mischief the 2. I'm going to try all 3 of those underneath Pretty and Cool. But you can either, I think, take a stand with her and try to single her, or you probably, if you don't, you got to include her, so you're going to need to spread a little bit. And if you're betting horizontals in the Del Mar Debutante. Again, we'll do a podcast on Labor Day for some stakes races there. And a reminder that simulcasting's now at the Red Mile for Keeneland and for harness racing. So that's where you head for simulcasting now. And, of course, keep your Keeneland Select account fully funded as they get ready to finish up at Saratoga and Del Mar and shift to Kentucky Downs. For Jim Goodman, I'm Tom Leach, and it's the In the Money podcast for KeenelandSelect.com.